Write previous minutes as they have not been prepared from the last meeting. We'll have students and school presentations, parent groups, open to the public, 3 minutes per speaker for no longer than 60 minutes. Please note that we have a big crowd tonight, so I will be holding people to their 3 minutes just so that we can ensure that everybody has the opportunity to speak. The board really wishes to hear everyone's ideas. We will then have our superintendent's report, our correspondence and board comments, personnel agenda, consent agenda, a proposed executive session, and then we will adjourn the meeting. Well, so we don't have a motion, so do we have any student or school presentations tonight? Any parent groups? Oh, I'm sorry, did I miss someone?
We do have a student presentation, but they're not here from the Honor Society, so can we be inserted when they get here?
Sure. We'll put them after the rest of the comments then.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. No parent groups? Okay. Open to the public who would like to speak. Okay.
Good evening, everyone. Kim Atwell, President of the Beacon Teachers Association, and I'm a physical education teacher at Beacon High School. I'd like to welcome all of our teachers, our administrators, and our parents and community members tonight, as I would like to take this opportunity in hopes to shed some light. Since the 2011-2012 school year, we have heard time and again about the Regents Reform Agenda and the APPR. The APPR is the state's attempt to develop a new evaluation system tying together student achievement with teacher and principal evaluations. The system is entirely new to educators and continues to develop and change as the state refines and revises the processes, oftentimes in the middle of the school year. At the same time, state tests are changing with the goal of increasing student performance. We all knew grades 3 through 8 assessments were changing this year, but much to everyone's surprise, the state also changed how some of the regents were scored, raising the bar so that what once would have been a passing score was not a passing score this past year. There's a tremendous amount of change connected to this agenda. This necessitated a tremendous amount of new information, rules, and procedures. Educators across the state have been attempting to keep pace and learn how to navigate through the many new expectations and complexities of this new evaluation process. Beacon is no different. It takes the work of the entire educational community, not only to understand, but also to be able to implement this massive change. As we know, Beacon is a focused district and has 2 focused schools. The state is investing additional resources of time and oversight into these identified schools and districts. There is no question that the state will continue to pay close attention to Beacon as long as we remain a focused district. For example, most of us know the story of how the state intervened and revised our APPR plan, particularly in the goal-setting process. Since the opening day of school, the APPR has been the topic of discussion, creating speculation, disappointment, anxiety, fear, and stress across each of our schools. I share and understand the frustration with my colleagues, and therefore, I would like to take a few moments to clarify the efforts of the faculty regarding the APPR. For certain, there is one thing that remains clear to me. Last year, our teachers took on the challenges of the APPR with vigor and integrity. No district that I'm aware of worked harder or more diligently than we did. The Beacon teachers, along with our administrative team, worked as professionals, understanding and accepting the challenges we faced class by class on a daily and weekly basis. Through a collaborative process, we reached agreement on a plan by which teachers would be judged, in part, based upon how the students in their buildings performed on certain state assessments. In doing so, we assumed that the manner of measuring student performance on such state assessments would remain the same from one year to the next. We were wrong. I am not here tonight to challenge the actions of the state. However, by increasing the rigor by which student performance would be assessed in the 2012-13 school year, the state removed any valid basis by which such scores could be compared to the 2011-12 scores. The data shows that although we did not meet the targets set forth by the state, we did grow and increase our student performance in many areas throughout the district. Without question, ratings that resulted from the flawed system are not a reflection of who we are as teachers, nor are they reflective of the hard work we put forth last year on behalf of our students. We are not defined, nor will we ever be solely identified by just a number or a rating, particularly when the number was arrived at through a flawed and constantly changing process. It will be easy to remain angry and deflated, to blame and deflect, or to acquiesce and disengage as the current system challenges our true focus, our moral purpose, and our reasons for being here. We cannot allow this political system to define us, but we must understand, accept, and work through the obstacles and challenges that every APPR plan in every district is facing without sacrificing our integrity and without ever compromising our responsibility to every one of our students who relies on us every single day. I look to my fellow educators to stand tall and be proud of our accomplishments, knowing that we need to continue to improve for our Beacon students who deserve nothing but the best. You may wonder if we had a bad plan. The answer is clearly no. Our results come from the constantly changing system. As reflected in the teachings of Edward Deming and his colleagues, if we don't like the results, we have to change the system. The Beacon teachers know we need to stay resilient, and we will ultimately prevail and solve not only the APPR puzzle, but also the disputed evaluation system. We all know that in order to be successful in Beacon, one needs strength, passion, commitment, courage, and resiliency. And that, my friends, we have. We will get it right. We will remain strong. I urge every one of my colleagues to stay united, stay informed, and join together to continue the good work we do for our students each and every day. They need us, and we need each other. In the interim, we will continue to work with the district administration and our Board of Education towards the goal of improving the system, recognizing excellence in education, supporting teaching staff, and doing all that we can do to improve student achievement in Beacon. We invite the Board of Education, fellow educators, and the broader community to join with us, keeping our eyes on the big picture and taking the longer view for student success. We all must work together openly and collaboratively to do what is best for our students. Let's move beyond the flaws in the APPR system and dig deeply into the new challenges for this school year. I thank our Board of Education for your support and trust, and look forward to your continued partnership with the PTA as we remain focused on teaching and learning. Thank you.
So I know that wasn't a question, but I do want to take a brief moment to comment. I'll tell you that one of the things that Mr. Hilberg and Dr. Walkley shared with me as I was going through the interview process and ultimately was offered a position here is that there was a substantial amount of work that went on last year. And I think after my conversations with the board that they know, recognize, and appreciate all the work that happened on the part of the teachers and the administrators. So I would join with what Kim had said, that I think that we need to work collaboratively to make sure that the plan that we develop for next year is a better plan, because I think we always want to make improvements. I know that we have a meeting this week, and we're looking forward to working with you to develop a plan that's going to continue to reinforce the educational improvements that we need to make, but also represents well on the work and efforts of all the employees. Thank you.
I would just like to quickly recognize that it goes without question that this Board of Education recognizes that we have many great teachers here in Beacon, and the scores obviously do not reflect what we believe in our teachers, but the one term that I use most often, and I'm sure I can speak for most of the board, is we believe in partnership. That's truly what I take to heart, and we believe that when we all work together, with the board, working with central administration, working with administration in the buildings, and thus working with the teachers, when we all come together, great things will happen here in Beacon. Would anyone else like to speak? Oh, I'm sorry, Jan, the students arrived. Can we have them go first?
Sure.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Adele, and this with Chris and Chelsea. We represent the National Honor Society in our 4th cooperative food drive to replenish food pantries in the area. Tonight, we would like to raise awareness in the schools and in Beacon that we will be collecting canned food and non-perishable food donations and money at the high school and middle school through November. Local food banks lead the fight against hunger in the United States. Nationwide, more than 37 million people are provided with food through food pantries, soup kitchens, and shelters in communities across America. We would like to give each of you an orange ribbon and a No Kids Hungry pledge card that reads, I believe that no child in America should go hungry. By pledging today, I add my voice to the national movement of people committed to ending childhood hunger in America by 2015. Tomorrow, September 24th, 2013, is the second Go Orange for No Kids Hungry Day. Please wear orange or support your orange ribbon to help us raise awareness to help end hunger in America, beginning right here in Beacon. We would also like to present a collection box and poster for the board office. Last year, the board office participated in our annual food drive. Please display them for a canned food collection. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Guess I'm a day early with your orange. My name is Jan Stark. I'm a community member. I was unable to make the last board meeting, but I was able to get here today. I have a few questions here. When the community was asked last year, when we all gathered together, and Barbara luckily was conducting a meeting where we're asking for our input for what we would like to see in our next superintendent. A couple of items that were mentioned was the ability to communicate to the community as well as community involvement. The communication part kind of fell flat a little bit on tonight's meeting. One, disappointing that we were unable to get the minutes from 2 weeks ago prepared for tonight. And these are questions. Let me finish.
Okay, but
Okay. And
our board clerk has been out of the office for more than a week.
And these are directed towards the superintendent for him to answer. Sorry, Melissa.
I have to stand up for Kelly, though. Okay.
These are for Dr. Dorwit to answer.
Okay.
That the minutes were not prepared and ready for tonight, as well as that tonight's agenda was not posted onto the website for the community to see what was going to transpire here tonight. And you know, just kind of like cueing now off of Melissa's statement that Kelly was not here, it's not an excuse. There needs to be backup for that, so that if one person's not here, someone else is able to take the reins and take care of those things to inform the community. Because a person is absent, it's not an excuse for things not being done. The other thing was, you know, we have Spirit of Beacon Day coming up on Dr. Dorwit, and I'd like to know if you're going to be able to be here and participate in that.
Yeah. Are you done so I can answer?
Well, that question's done.
Okay. Yes, I'm going to be marching in the parade.
Okay. The last time I was here, I had asked about parent notification and how the parents, you know, and how their child's teacher were doing. Now, I know that a number of hard-working, quality teachers apparently received ineffective scores. How did this happen? And was there something wrong with the process?
We have to follow the plan as it was approved. I don't know that I would say that there was something wrong with the process. The plan was developed by the parties, approved by the state, and we have to follow the plan according to the way that it was developed.
Were things calculated correctly, or were
Yes.
mistakes made?
There was no mistakes made in the calculations. We did uncover a problem with a number underlying a piece of the plan, and I put the state on notice about that, and that we intend to fix that portion of the plan.
Okay. And my final question is, how are you going to determine the baseline for the Heidi scores? Is each grade and building being treated on its own, or is it going to be one size fits all? And what support do you have in place for the teachers?
Are you referring to last year's plan?
Sorry?
You're referring to last year's plan?
No, I'm talking about baseline. The baseline in APPR, the baseline changes from year to year with the Heidi scores as to what our level of expectation of student growth there's going to be.
We have,
So my question is, for the Heidi score, that baseline, okay, which then becomes a reflection on the quality of education and the quality of the teacher, because you want to see a certain percentage of growth, because that Heidi score affects the Heidi score effectiveness of particular teachers that are teaching these classes and our students. So, in some cases, in some districts, they'll have one baseline for everybody. In other districts, which seem to be a little more effective, especially one that is like diverse as our district is. I mean, it's different when you have one elementary school opposed to where you have 4 elementary schools. So in the case here where we have 4 different elementary schools, are we going to have a different baseline for the Heidi scores for South Avenue versus Sargent, Glenham, and Forrestal, or is it going to be one baseline for all 4 elementary schools?
so we're still in the process of negotiating the plan, so all those decisions haven't been made. It's an active negotiation, so I can't really provide those answers yet until we close it out.
Okay, thank you.
The initial point that you raised about the board minutes, I don't disagree with you. I'll take ownership of that. It is true that the board clerk was unavailable, and I think ultimately what we want to have is sort of redundancy within the system to make sure that we can get this done.
Dr. Dorr, can I also mention that the board agenda and the supporting documentation was on the website earlier this afternoon?
No, it wasn't. As of tonight, it wasn't on there. I pulled it up on my phone. I didn't see it.
Okay. We can check later, but I did post it.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm presenting this evening on 3 areas of concern to me. I am pleased that a system has been implemented in the high school called NovaNet. The presentation given by the principal during open house and again this evening show that some thought has gone into meeting the needs of the students. The program provides assistance to students who are failing core classes and provides practice tests in SAT, ACT, and GED. My first question is, was there a conversation by the board and or the newly appointed superintendent July 1st to put together an interim plan for the failing students and to prevent students from dropping out until NovaNet has been state approved? I am also grateful that the middle school has Castle Learning as their system to address the recent Focus 1 status that Rondout received. In addition to Castle Learning, I learned recently at the PTSO meeting that the principal strategized with his teachers to create a circle of academic support for the 8th graders. In addition, the same was afforded to some students where possible in 6th or 7th grade for ELA or math. My second question is, was there a conversation by the board and or the newly appointed superintendent July 1st to put together an interim plan for students who will take part in Castle Learning once it is state approved? Although these 2 systems have been created, I am saddened that an interim plan was not created by the district to aid the students while the 2 programs, NovaNet and Castle Learning, are awaiting state approval. The teachers should have been trained in advance on how the program Castle Learning works and how to appropriately carry the program out. Taking the proactive approach leads to success. Taking the route of learning together is a path of disaster. I raised the question to both principals, and at the last 2 Board of Education meetings, the question was raised to the board and Dr. Dorwick. Do we have an interim plan? What is the interim plan? It is apparent that we have no black and white plan to address these issues above. It was said in more than one way, we cannot wait for state approval. We must take action now. My third question is a two-part question addressed to Dr. Dorwood. You confidently advised the people of this community at the last two board meetings that you just arrived July 1st, 2013. With all due respect, if your salary went into effect July 1st, 2013, then answers to the question presented should have been sought out and presented to the community by this time or this evening. You are the educational leader of this community at current, so just like the president has a 100-day plan, what is your plan to address the problems and concerns that I just presented, and what are your short-term goals? In closing, I am also very concerned with whether or not the district advertises to search for a diverse range of teachers, lunch personnel, and security. Although the principal informed the students at the high school, the monitoring will be done to ensure that all people are treated with respect and dignity, and the rules carried out equally, and areas of concern monitored closely. The matter is well beyond the principal if it is recognized by the state. My fourth and final two-part question is, what steps have been taken by the district to advertise for teachers and personnel that represent this community and to address the disproportionality discovered in the high school? Thank you for listening, and I am now accepting the answers to my 4 questions.
So the first question is if there was a plan approved on 7/1 relative to the high school.
Yes.
And part of, so perhaps I didn't explain this well enough last time, and I apologize for that.
No, you just told me that you just got here July 1st.
What's that?
I said, no, you just told everybody that you just got here July 1st.
That may have been part of the answer. I'm not sure that that was all the answer. For sure it wasn't the message that I was trying to send.
All right, I'll hear you now.
Okay. There is a response required by the state. That's part of what, when the question came up relative to the focus school identification in the high school, part of what I was trying to communicate out is that we have a responsibility to develop a plan. So in mid-July, the state put out the documents that we were supposed to complete. We worked through the month of July and August and submitted the plan at the end of August. What I had related at the last meeting is that the state is expected to come back and give us feedback on that or formal approval. Since the last meeting, we've checked with the state, and we're being told that there is no definitive timeline as to when they were planning on giving us that approval. So part of what we had already planned on then is coming back at the next board meeting to do the presentation on the plan, because it does require board approval.
Are you talking about Novenet?
No, I'm talking about Novenet is a piece of what's included in the focus plan.
So what plan, I'm sorry, are you referencing?
Because the high school is a focus school, we are required to develop a plan in response to the focus school identification. That was the question that had come up at the last board meeting.
But I was under the impression that Novenet was the plan that was being presented to the state. And
No.
the reason I came up with that conclusion is because when I had asked that since Novenet was introduced, I was mentioned back in 2010, and I did say that it was in effect, which I know it started somewhere, I just didn't know where it ended up. Are we privy as the community to know what plan you presented to the state?
No, that's what I was just saying, that what I had said at the last meeting in response to the question is that we've submitted the plan and that ultimately we would be coming back. I'm telling you that we intend to do that at the next board meeting because we're being told now that the state is not at any point in time in the near future going to give us a formal approval. So we do need to have the board act on it, adopt it as our full plan, understanding that when, and maybe I should say when and if the state does finally respond, it might require us to modify the plan, but we do need to move ahead. But Novenet is not the plan. Novenet is
Right, I'm
a
saying,
small piece.
what is the plan? Like, are we allowed to know what the plan is? That's my question. because I
No,
thought
absolutely.
that it was Novanet, but if
No.
it's not Novanet, then I would assume that the interim plan that Dr. Seaverting has put in place would be Novanet to safeguard those students that are failing. So I think that that would be good, and that was done independent of you arriving here. So that is excellent. So if there's another plan, I would like to know what that plan is, so that we can, assess whether or not we will be moving forward or we will be working backwards at this point.
Sure. And so here's what I would tell you. The plan itself consists of, there's actually 3 separate plans, so I shouldn't refer to it as a plan. There is a school comprehensive education plan that was prepared for the high school. There's also one for the middle school, and then another one for the district, because all 3 are under focus identification. The plans for the 2 buildings were developed in collaboration with the building principals, but also because the schools, or the district, is expected to respond to a series of criteria. So the district plan ultimately has to be in support of the other 2 plans. Part of the challenge that I have, Ms. Gadsden, and I had known that you were concerned about this. The plan goes on for many, many pages, so it's not something that I could answer in response. But
So
what I
can
can,
I find that somewhere? Or
well, here's what I would invite you to do. This is going to be going on the agenda for the next board meeting. There's no reason, even if you want to come in, I can meet with you in anticipation of that and walk you through what we have in the documents. But there will be a formal presentation, because the board does have to approve it. That requires a presentation of them, so that, as with any board action, if there's pieces that they don't like, then obviously they can send us back and say we need to make whatever modification. But it does require formal board approval, all 3 of them. I guess my concern would be they're all large enough documents that it's probably going to take a pretty large piece of the workshop time just to get through it all.
All right, so I guess what I'll continue to do is just keep it on my radar and then follow up with you guys to give you ample amount of time to put together something that would be worthy of presenting. Is that fair?
It's already been submitted to the state. Like I said, if you want to come in and see me, I can walk you through the plan. It's going to be a public, as was commented earlier, things that are going to be put in front of the board are available to the public so that they can see them in anticipation of the meeting. So there's no reason that you wouldn't be able to see it prior to the next board meeting.
I guess that would be the same for question 2.
Yes.
And so we'd be moving right along to the question directed at you, which is, what is your plan and what is your goal? Because I was a little saddened when I looked at the last 2 board meetings and I found that you would just say, I just got here July 1st. I just got here July 1st. And I service people and individuals, and it's not appropriate to tell family members that you just got here. You have to tell them what you did since you arrived. So do you have that readily available?
So I guess I would disagree with that characterization a little bit, because have I told people that I got here July 1st? Absolutely, in part because I got here July 1st, but it doesn't mean that we haven't been doing work. I've been meeting with multiple parties, including community groups, trying to make sure that when we put a plan together on, what are we going to be doing, it's representative of the various parties that have a chance for input. I had a board retreat this past Monday where I presented a draft version of the plans, and the other thing that's going to happen at the next board meeting is I'd be asking them to formally adopt. It would be a 5-year strategic plan where it's laying out things that I think we need to be working on overall, but also specific goals that I would have in place underneath of that plan.
And my last question in reference to the disproportionality identified in the high school. I know Dr. Stephen, he knows I like him, so he's done a great job in bringing it about. My daughter is one of the students who brought it to his attention. And so what are we doing about it as a district? Because it exists, and I think we continuously just look the other way, and I don't like doing that anymore.
No, we shouldn't be looking the other way. I think, so when you come to meet with me about the focus plan, that's actually one of the tenets that's laid out in there. So we have, there's actually 2 different groups, and if you apologize, give me a second, I'll tell you the names of the groups. But we have 2 different groups that we're going to be working with, one in the high school and one in the middle school on those issues. So we had in the high school, the TAC-D unit from NYU coming in to work with us on training in cultural competence and multicultural awareness. And in the middle school, we also had, in addition to TAC duty, we also had the New York State Center for School Safety coming in to provide additional support in those areas.
Okay, so I'll be following up just to see what the status is.
Sure.
On that.
Sure.
And I appreciate the time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Would anyone else like to speak?
Yes.
Yes, Dennis.
Let's try.
You wait until I look down and thinking I'm moving on.
That's okay, Madam President. I'm used to it. Dennis Pavlock, leading resident. As I was here last board meeting, I brought up Project SAVE and waited for responses as other residents were responding to. Project SAVE is a state law. We're supposed to have a public hearing on or before July 1st every year and succeeding every year after that. We haven't been doing that. I'd like to know if next year we're going to have that public hearing. And I wanted to say, Madam President, I agree with you with partnership. I can be anybody's partner until I feel I'm being ignored. And then I get your attention by coming to the board office and sitting there until I get tired and everybody goes home together. And I can do that for as long as I have to do that. And I know I'm not being ignored. Case in point. In the June 18th, 2013 Poughkeepsie Journal listed the 2012 graduation rates from 9th grade to be a senior. In 2006, at a 6-year, total of 295 students, our graduation rate was 85.4%. Let's go to 2007 at a 5-year. It was 287 students, 80.8%. Let's go to 2008 4-year. 251 students and a 70.5 graduation rate. Can I get an answer on that? Why our graduation rate was 70.5% and what it is now? What are we doing for morale for our students? And one more comment. As an outsider looking in, that's all I really am, I believe we're giving too much energy and too much push to the GED program. I don't know what age you can take the GED program because I'm not a GED graduate. However, I think and I believe, let me rephrase that, I believe the GED program should not be a priority, but it should be last resort. So can I get some answers to my comments, please?
So for the first the point that you had raised about the safety plan, I think we can and should do a better job next year. I know that you're talking about July 1, so I haven't had the chance to sit with you personally, but I'd be happy to do so if you want to set up a time to come and meet with me.
Absolutely.
Okay. And then relative to the graduation rate, I would agree with you. So part of what you're going to see in the goals when the board approves them, one of the major pieces there is that there has to be a thorough review of what's been leading to dropout for Beacon students, because I don't think that it's necessarily the same in all schools. So we need to be looking at the numbers and try to figure out why it's happening, and then make sure that we're addressing those needs.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Would anyone else like to speak? Thank you. That was your superintendent's report.
Okay, so I had a couple of items here. One of them was, after Ms. Atwell got done speaking, one of the important points that I forgot to touch on, I know that you mentioned it in your presentation, but I think it's worth commenting on as well. I think that anybody that pays attention to these issues does know that the state did sort of have a shifting target, for lack of a better way to put it. But we are obligated to follow the plan as it was laid out. One of the things that happened about mid-year is that the state put out a notice that they were switching to the first assessment based on Common Core, and as a result that everybody should expect a significant drop or downward movement of the scores on the 3 through 8 tests. And that the other thing is that people should avoid the temptation to try to compare last year's test to the preceding year, because they're based on 2 completely different standards. I'm kind of a numbers person, so I couldn't avoid the temptation to try to compare it to something. And where I thought was a useful way to look at that was to say, how does Beacon compare to the county average? Because regardless of whether it's last year's assessment or the preceding year's assessment, we can at least see how we're doing compared to other schools. And I think one of the signs that I saw there that a lot of the hard work was paying off is that if you look at our numbers on the 12 assessments, so 3 through 8 on ELA and math, we actually closed the gap between Beacon results and the county average in a majority of those assessments. I'm not telling you that there isn't significant work left to do, but I think that is noteworthy that we did make that improvement, and the teachers and administrators deserve a lot of credit for that. The second thing that I want to do is, the state has been throwing a lot at us in the last couple of years. One of the things that has come down the line as a mandate is that all districts have to select what they're referring to as a data dashboard. And so I'm obligated to select on behalf of Beacon City the data dashboard that we're going to use over the next several years. You should be aware that the way they're pitching this is that for the first year for sure, and supposedly for the second year there's no cost. It's primarily going to display state data, but beyond that point in time there may be additional costs. Our obligation is to select a plan and then to notify the community members how they can sign up to have an account and go and make use of that account. So we will be making that selection this week, and then over the coming months, in keeping with the mandate from the state, making sure to get the information out so people that want to sign up for it can sign up for it. And then the last thing I had down here, but somebody had already asked the question, we will be having the Spirit of Beacon Day Parade. The board, I think, traditionally always marches. I'll be joining them, and I look forward to seeing you all there.
Thank you. Do we have any board comments tonight? Okay. May I have a motion to approve the personnel agenda?
Motion to approve the personnel agenda as follows from A to T.
Second.
Comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. May I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion to approve the consent agenda as follows from A to D.
Second.
Comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. May I have a motion for executive session?
Motion to adjourn to executive session.